start out with some economics. It may give you an idea whether you need to even listen to the rest of these folks. Now, I often get into it, you know. One of the ways you can always kind of tell, you know, how the session's going to go, or any session goes, is where the economist is on the session. I once did a session over on alternative crops in Tampa. And I can't remember what the alternative crops were. And he said, well, you're just an economic analysis. Well, I did economic analysis up from the top. This is everywhere. Clear the room. So all the rest of the production people never did get to hear. So this is a good sign that I'm talking about this. We're going to break it down into 3 studies. This first one is an older study that was done, Economics of Irrigation Systems. And basically what it's looking at, and there's a couple things in here that I also want to point out, but just comparative costs and energy savings. It's not looking at any yield gains or anything like that, but it's kind of it's a good study. Guess we did. Back to this. This is brand new. And what I did there, I'm working on the regional water plan, and I did an analysis on potential savings by converting systems. And then I went ahead and extended it a little bit further to kind of give you an idea of what it may look like from an economic standpoint from the conversion from MISA or LISA to LIPA. Okay? So we're looking at all systems here. We're looking at the conversion of MISA or LISA to LIPA here. And the third study is the one that Bridget Guerrero did. Bridget and I did, I guess. And that looks at the economic feasibility of converting center pivots to SDI. And it looks at it in a little different way. It takes into account the energy savings that can be achieved. But for the most part, it comes back in to figure out what kind of yield you're going to need. Because one thing we do know, what's more expensive, SDI or center pivot? SDI. Okay. So it just, you know, it looks at it that way. How long you're going to have, or what kind of yield you're going to have to make this thing work. So let's talk about the economics of irrigation systems. This publication really needs to be updated, but it's not my problem anymore. I don't look for extension. And what we did here is we used furrow as the base back then. And again, this original publication came out in 2001 and is updated here in 2011. Some of these numbers are not as valid, especially on the gross investment. But I think the principle of how it's evaluated is important. In fact, you have the study right here. Okay, so you can go back and look at it as you get time. There's a couple things I'm not going to hit on. So at that time, the gross investment per acre in the center pivot was 556, which would be what? I don't know. I think at that time's 125. Half miler per acre then is 338. So I got, and again, economies to scale. Drip was evaluated at 1,200. Then I looked at a net investment. Okay. At a 15% tax rate, at a 28% tax rate. And this is what the net investment would look in all 3 systems. So what we're doing, it has a salvage value and useful life associated with it, and I'll get to that in a minute. What it did is it takes these application efficiencies that were developed by all the ag engineers. I had furrow at 60%, MISA at 78, LISA at 88, LIPA at 95, SDI at 97. What we did is, okay, we said LISA is our standard. So in high water use, we're going to put in 20 inches, 14 and 8. And then, being MISA is less efficient, it indexed this and said, okay, to get the same equivalent amount of water to those plants, you have to put on 22 and a half or almost 30 under furrow, which is the index, okay? So it's 88 divided by 60 times that 20 gives you 29. Going the other way, you can see the LIPA, you'd have less water, And SDI, even less water. Okay, that's the high water use, intermediate water use, and low water use. This again, it's out of date, but at the time, let's keep in mind, given those system costs, here's the depreciation based on that investment, and again, this is going to be a 25-year life, I believe, of each one of those, and that's the dollars per acre inch of water. Okay. Taxes, insurance, interest charges, okay, on that investment. So that gives you your fixed cost from 110 to 605. On the variable cost, you get the fuel costs. Okay, and this is again at the intermediate water use level. Room maintenance, repairs, labor costs, so we're somewhere between $11 and $12 per acre inch on the variable cost. So it gives you total cost somewhere between 17 down to 12 for the furrow per acre inch applied.
Steve, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I should know this, but can you refresh in my mind what MESA and LISA is?
LISA is that 12 to 18.
12 to 18, okay.
Non-bubblers.
Yeah, okay.
Spray. Above 18 is MESA. Okay. So if you're above 18, it's MESA. Medium elevation, sprinkler application. LIPA is 12 to 18 bubblers.
So you didn't do a study on the deals up on top of the sprinkler?
No.
Like they do in Nebraska?
No, it's just,
That's loose half doing that.
yeah, but there's aesthetics though. You never do qualify, there should be an aesthetic value to seeing the nice spray coming out the top. And the cooling effect that could have on your neighbor. But that's another story. So, net result though, when you look at the net investment, of course the furrow, and here's that, and at that time we did not make any differential, and this should have been between MESA, LISA, and LIPA, because you're just installing the system. And the SDI, net investment cost of $1,000. So this becomes the change. Okay, 487 minus 183, 283.9, 1,000 minus 183, 825. Under the high water use, it's basically showing your benefits versus that change in investment being good under SDI for the high, intermediate, but is a little bit weak, obviously, if you're not putting much water through the system. Again, you're ignoring all the yield gains on this in theory we're getting. LIPA was the highest, about 966, 17. So definitely the conversion to sprinklers paid is I think what you can draw from that. Again, I'll get down and look at a different way of going to the SDI, because I think that's important on what we now have it. This is one that I really like, even if I didn't put it together. Nick Kinney put this together, and this is also in the same bulletin. Also, I should mention I'm not covering, there is sensitivity analysis for labor price and all these different things in this, off that deal. This is on your natural gas engines. If you're sitting at a 15% efficiency, engine efficiency, basically, and what you've got is the seasonal amount you can save by going up to, let's say go 22. So, and I should mention this, we're talking about this is 300-foot lift, 20 pounds PSI, 2,000 hours, or approximately that many acre inches. Okay, that's a 75 horse pumping requirements. So if you have a 15% engine efficiency, you can increase that to 22. That's about $3,200 for the seasonal savings. At $4 natural gas, $8 that thing goes up to $6,500, and $12. Of course, we don't have to worry about that. I hope for a long time. Over a 5-year period, discounting that out, so that $3,200 then turns into $14,500, a 28.9 year. So it kind of gives you an idea, and what I like is it gives you a good perspective on if your engine is not efficient, what you could pick up. Leon, you've done about 3,000 tests on this thing. Can they get to a 22%?
Yeah,
What do you say to your logical if you're gonna redo it?
22, 23 is what I'm gonna present.
Okay, so somewhere in there. So you can see that improving the efficiency, if your engine is not very efficient, can really pay off. And it gives you an idea of what you can afford to pay to make it go. And that's what I kind of like about this. Again, Nick Kenny put that together on that one. This shows it for the 125 horse with 750 gallons per minute, 400 foot lift, again 2,000 hours. And you see they're going from 15 to 22, be about 5,400 in savings at $4 natural gas, 4, 8, 12. So if you go to 5 years, even a 6% discount rate, that's 24,000. You could be saving by increasing that. Now it's a question of what it costs to improve it. So I think, Leon may talk about that a little bit. Well, I thought that's a very good table and still applicable, especially since we're sitting here at this $4 natural gas we're seeing. This last part was something we added from the 2001 to 2011 along with the natural gas. And that really looked at, okay, I have natural gas, I want to convert to electricity. Will it work economically? And what we did here, we took the investment in the electric engine, which would be about 11,000, 36,000, well, no, wait a minute. The investment in the natural gas engine is about 11,000, 36,000 for a 500 foot lift. Electric, it's about 4,900 to 8,900, okay, is what you expect for an investment cost. Now, we're starting with natural gas, but to convert it then, at that time, was estimated to be about 15,500, and the smaller lift, about 7,500. So that gives you an annualized cost of somewhere around $24 an acre on the natural gas. If you're replacing it with that, or $7.60 at the 200 foot level, 6 to 13 on the electric. The life increases, is estimated to increase, can be about 15 years and 12 years on those engines for the natural gas, 15 on the electric, 10% salvage value. And this gives you an annualized lube maintenance and repair cost, estimated 1,000 to 720 down here on the electric, $12.33 per acre year, $6 on the electric. We took those, put them in, and generated some curves, and basically it says that you can think about this. And where these two cross, then it starts to become feasible to go electric. So we're talking about natural gas prices somewhere in the $4 range, but this is a 200 foot lift. Now, that's over a 20-year horizon. The next one gives you the sensitivity analysis. Basically, you can see what we're talking about. The 200 foot lift is around that $4 intermediate water use. And then, but at 500 foot lift, it's somewhere around 470, 480. So it kind of gives you a proximity of what you would expect. You can see the corresponding electric prices down here. So there's some interesting things in there on that. So where our natural gas prices are now, unless there's special considerations, conversion to electric, maybe not so much. And there's different things that can affect this. And again, is that proximity to three-phase electric, line extension costs. Last time I looked, or talked to anybody, it is around 20,000 a mile.
About 60,000.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, now you can add about, and for about every, so 20,000, you'd add probably about $1 to that natural gas price for you to do it.
Well, that, if there's not a drop on the electric line, the power cut is
Mhm.
good.
So when that happens, it becomes really tough to to make the electric work. And especially start thinking about peak factor charges, because different folks have different, you know, costs. That first time you turn it on, they'll hit you with a peak. But sometimes there are conversion incentives, of course there's cost of repairs and labor, because obviously that electric's a whole lot easier to deal with. You're just flipping a switch. Now, unfortunately, if you were thinking about this and you just saw this analysis, now you're gonna flip that switch and go, oh man, this sucker cost me a lot more than I thought. So then you're talking about really getting closer to $6, $7 natural gas to break that even. Now, this is economic feasibility of converting MESA, LISA, center pivot to LIPA. So I think this is very appropriate. And I'm gonna actually show you some of the things that I'm doing for the Senate Bill 5 stuff, and then I'll show you the extension I made to kind of get this to work out. First of all, two things: converting 60-inch spacing to 30-inch spacing with bubblers. Okay, replacing everything. The cost estimate I got was around $19,000. Okay, and that's doing the crooked necks and hoses and weights and all that stuff. Does that seem about right? If you had a 30, you're on LISA. Just adding the bubblers and the weights would take about $5,500. Okay, so it kind of gives you an idea of what you're looking at as cost. Now, all these, of course, Keith is more than willing to cost share this stuff, right, Keith?
Yes.
So you could have that cost. So if we look at it, and I wanted to put it in annualized cost per acre to kind of give you an idea. I did this on a 10-year life. So basically, this is what I call Aggie math. Okay? So I simply took it 18.9 divided by the 125 acres divided by 10-year life, come down to an annualized cost of 1512 on conversion of the 60 to a 30 with bubblers, and then converting the 30 to bubblers, about $440 per acre. Now normally I would have said, okay, what we should have done is taken the tax savings and then the opportunity cost, because you're taking that investment and it could be someplace else. Simple Aggie math on this one. Now this is a spreadsheet that I put together, basically looking at well, our entire region actually. So this is really actually based on the results of the surveys we've been doing. One of the surveys you filled out is the distribution of acres between the different systems, MESA, LISA, LIPA, and SDI. Here are those application efficiencies I pulled over from the experts, and just, you know, the godfather of irrigation gave me those. So they got to be right. Okay? And then this is percentage systems. Okay, so I had to work a weighted average of these systems, okay, based on MESA and LISA. So the average weighted efficiency, and average weighted efficiency, because we have virtually no drift yet, very little drift. It was 95.1. So the idea is then, okay, is what I did. I'm not gonna, this is what I did to combine systems, that was that. But I took the MESA, and basically, so we're looking at that 78 versus that 95, and the average amount of water put on in the region, okay, according to the Texas Water Development Board, which you know they can't be wrong. They're always right. It's 15.8 inches. So based on this, 95 versus 78, that means that by going to LIPA, you're going to save 2.84 inches. And that's just an efficiency thing. Okay? And then I took it and I expanded it and said, okay, if we took what we're putting on corn, which is approximately 21, that means 1.78 inches. If we take what we're putting on cotton, which is around 10, you'd be saving 1.8 inches by going from MESA to LIPA. Everybody following what I'm doing? At 78 versus at 95. Look at the water saved. Now Lisa, the savings overall was 1.18, because you're going in from 88 to 95. At 21 inches, that's an inch and a half. But at 10 inches, that's 3/4 of an inch. And that's just improving that system efficiency. So then I took this and I expanded it one more time and looked at it this way. So we have I range it high, medium, low water, and that's MESA, and then this is LISA to LIPA. Brought those water savings over and said, okay, 9 bushels per acre inch. Now that's obviously what I showed you before. I showed 10. What's his name? Talked about 8. So again, it's good Aggie math. 9. 8, 10, 9. Okay. So if I took that and said, okay, that savings times what it's worth, which is 9 bushels per that acre inch, that's 34 bushels, 25, 16, depending on the amount of water you would be applying. Kind of give you a range in there. And then I did another Aggie thing. I said 350 per bushel, which means net. Take out the harvest cost, the fertilizer, incremental fertilizer, so it's probably equivalent about 4 1/4. Okay, so that means MESA to LIPA, you'd be saving, it'd be worth about $119. The low end, it's worth about $56. LISA to LIPA, again, those water savings are less because you're moving from a relatively good efficiency system to a better one. It worked out somewhere between $23 to $49 an acre.
Annual.
Annual. This is annual. That's why I annualize those costs. Remember what those annualized costs were for conversion? $15 and $440. Now you can make the argument here that LIPA may not be 97 or 95% efficient, or at least your LISA may be better, but it kind of gives you an idea. Now remember, Keith just told you he paid for half of it for you. So that could be 220 and 7.5. Questions on that? Makes sense? Okay, now I'm going to take one more shot at this thing, because you know the biggest question to me, one of the biggest questions to me is the feasibility of converting the center pivots to SDI. Because SDI, of course, is the buzz, and while we won't be covering SDIs this session, SDI will come in next session. Okay, so we'll get a good view of that, and we'll have some people on the panel to deal with that. So what's this look like? This is a 2017 study. It's a 3% discount rate. And basically we had LIPA at about, well, $612 per acre gross investment. Okay, and then did the salvage value, discounted tax benefits, salvage value. Okay, and then the next net tax benefit, so it came out to be $481. So we froze that there. We looked at the level of investment on SDI at $1,250, $1,750, $2,250. Anybody put any SDI in lately? Which one fits? Best shot? That's why I do a range. So you can sit there, talk to your SDI person and see where this thing fits. My guess is probably closer to the 1750, 17. But, so you got that. So we're going to compare this LIPA to the low, intermediate, and high levels of investment for SDI. And this is water use by system and crop. Again, one of the things that always bothered me is that what happens if LIPA is not 95% efficient. Okay? let's say it's 92% efficient. So you did two different ways to look at the equivalent amount of water applied for these different crops. Now, total variable cost basically is about the same when we look at it per acre inch. Apply. You're just applying less, or you're applying less water through the SDI system. Get the equivalent. Here's the prices used, and this is kind of interesting. What I'll be talking about is this average price scenario for the most part, at $5 wheat, which would be nice. We have 4 1/4 corn, which is obtainable, 65-cent cotton, 80 cents, and 360 sorghum.
80 would be nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is your gross on 65, so that's including the cotton seed. Anyway, high price scenario 5 through 650, low price scenario, and this is basically looking over a 5-year period, 350 on the corn, 350 on the wheat, and you can see 55 cents on the cotton, which is basically lumber. Adjusting for these harvest costs here, 43 cents on corn, 9 cents on cotton at that time, so on and so forth. Now, this is built on the average yields for the region, okay? And this is coming from NAS. So the 2012 through 16 average for NAS, entire High Plains, 194 on corn, 989 on cotton, 92 on sorghum, and 48 on wheat, irrigated. Those are the averages. Now, in a way, I'm going to use that to back calculate how many bushels you're going to have, but then if that was 220, and then it'd still be those bushels on top, not necessarily percentage. So, looking at a 10-year payback with average prices, and again, these are the different crops. This is the annual yield increase you'd have to have. So at the low level, you'd have to have a 7% increase if you're paying $12.50 for that SDI, 8% under cotton, 18 under sorghum, 25 under wheat. On the medium level, which I think is probably the most realistic, you'd have to have a 13, 15, 34, and 46% increase, annual increase, to break even with that investment cost, okay? Even taking into account the energy. So, breaking that back, what's that mean? Annual increase on corn, 25 bushels, 148 pounds on cotton, 31 on sorghum, 22 on wheat. But remember, this is a 10-year payout. To break it even, what you'd have to have.
Some of that would be really hard to do.
Yeah, but we're gonna look at it a different way. You know, because again, the life of these systems is a little bit longer. Now, so what I did is remember that differential we talked about 95 to 97? I said, okay, if this is a 5% differential, then this goes to 5%, 7%, 14, and 20. Okay? So again, if you can't get as much out of the LIPA system, as you're saying, that differential is not 97 to 95, but 97 to 92, it does cut these break-evens down. And you can kind of interpret that graph. Now, let's go to the 25-year payback, because that's the life of these systems in theory. If we're talking about that, then we're just talking about 3%, 4%, 9, and 12, okay, for these crops: corn, cotton, sorghum, and wheat. Intermediate level, 6, 7, 17, and 23. Okay. So if we look at it, average prices, medium investment, break-even annual increase, you're going to need about 12 bushels increase of corn. You're going to need about 69 pounds on your cotton, 16 on your sorghum, and 11 on your wheat. Again, this is over a 25-year period. So to make SDI more beneficial than being on the LIPA end of things, Again, this is at 97.95. You're gonna have to average more than 12 bushels. Okay, that's the break even. Everybody following me? Oh, and I threw those in there. In case you have the Rolls Royce of SDI, I guess. So that's the high level investment. To me, it's probably in here or someplace in between, certainly not down here. Okay? Because it depends, 1250, 1750. And those I just did 10-year payback, low prices. You can see how that price affects things. And again, that was 350, 55, 298. High prices, you can see how it affects things. It helps us see that. Okay. So what does that mean? I can tell you center pivot systems for the most part, and again, there's always exceptions to the rule. You know, because this may be something cross specific, maybe something terrain specific, but overall, it's how low can you go? You know, I think the LIPA systems, for sure, we want to go, will work for you. And I think that's kind of pointed out by the panel. What did they say last time? You had three of the biggest producers around. Where are they at? They're on 30-inch spacings, bubbles. They don't like the 60s, whatever. Check that natural gas engine efficiency. I don't even know if we have anybody that checks that anymore. I mean, the person to actually run the test for you. But it doesn't take much of an improvement to generate some substantial savings on this thing. Consider converting to electric. And obviously, it's more convenient, lower power plant investment, maintenance cost. Definitely a neat way to go, but you got to watch out for, you know, the natural gas prices now. I don't think it works for you so much. And but you got to watch out for all those hidden costs, like the 60,000 a mile and all this gas, peak load charges. What are you going to do? But really, from a convenience standpoint, I think it's really the way to go. But from an economic standpoint, not so much. And the point I want to just make on SDI, you know, I don't have anything one way or the other on SDI, as far as good, bad, or the other, except the costs. And you've got to be able to generate yield increases to offset that. Can you generate enough? And that's what you got to evaluate. Okay, cost of an SDI is approximately triple the LIPA. Considering a 10-year payback period, and then you see the 1750, those are the type of yield increases. Again, I had them in there for the 25-year payback. And actually, I make a comment in here. You can just knock off about 55% of that yield increase to get your break-even payback for 25 years. Okay? I think you need to consider that. But there's always, on the other hand, I hadn't put in an on the other hand yet. This is looking at, do I go SDI or do I go LIPA? I got a piece of ground.
Clean.
Clean. That's where this analysis was. If you have that existing center pivot, you know, obviously that's going to be really negative for SDI because you can make that flip to LIPA pretty damn easy. However, you do have, if you can't get 95, which, you know, I'm sure Godfather will tell you about. If you can't get that 95%, then you can only get 92, well then that becomes a little bit more positive because you go from 92 to 97. That differential is bigger, terrain or whatever, then, you know, that favors a little bit more to SDI. Limited water availability, you may want to stretch all you can. And something we have not talked about, and I don't even know if we're gonna get around to it, is a drip attached to the center pivot. Cheaper, but it's probably less effective. We're still trying to figure that out. Sometime that should have been a question we asked Tom Moore and Harold Grawl, and it's really interesting when you talk to him. Tom's big on it. He likes that drip.
On the first
Harold,
three
not
spans.
so much. Hmm?
Tom wanted it on the first three spans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it could be a pressure thing.
Kansas State's research would tell you there's virtually no difference between dragging hoses behind the pivot, the dragging line stuff, versus 30-inch bowler pads. And when they give their stuff, they always kind of leave that out until you ask them, but their research shows statistically no difference between 30-inch sprinklers run in bubble mode
Mhm.
versus dragging line. And cost differences eat you up. You get no value out of the dragging line. Plus, I know it probably doesn't blow on your farm, but elsewhere in West Texas, it seems to blow a lot, and all that hose ends up tangled up into a hell of a mess.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's what the research is.
Yeah. Nah, I'm just telling you, you're two people who got it, and they're on the opposite sides of it. So, you know.
But Tom is right, there is an advantage to being able to use it on the center of the pivot. It keeps you from overwatering. It's got some good things that it can do on the center of the pivot. Help you to manage stuff, but you do have to clean the water up, period.
Okay, depending on yield increases, system cost, payback period, consider SDI may have a place. But if it does, it's probably with corn, cotton, vegetables, or marijuana. Now, I'm not talking hemp, I'm talking marijuana. I can say positive there. But the reality is, sorghum, wheat, no way. No way unless maybe it's
Cedars.
seed sorghum, something like that.
Have y'all looked at the difference in yield on trying to get a stand up with SDI? I mean, I know sometimes it pump a lot of water, but it's hard to get corn to come up.
Yeah.
So I know of people that have drip and they kept their pivot to get their corn up, and then they use the drip for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So
Really got a big investment.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of that, yeah, I've talked to some people that've done that. Yeah, I mean, that has been one of the problems associated with SDI. I think, you know, that would be a good question to save for next week,
okay.
because Jerry will be here, and he says there's no problem. Gives his logic on how this thing, osmosis goes upwards rather than down. It's a fascinating question. But yeah, no, that's always been listed as one of the problems. The rodent problem is, you know, if we had any wildlife.
Because if you take that potential problem coupled with a loss in irrigation water and water pressure, seems like the longer I would have drip in the ground, the worse my corn stand would be. But if I was already running into that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. One of the couple of people we'll have on the panel next week in particular are SDI people. You know, I mean, growers.
Yeah.
They've been using it. I assume John Engelbrecht and Patrick Arminsky, both of them have been doing it for quite a while.
What's the main reason that they do drip? What, is it water or?
Yes. Main reason, water.
They were
Because
just,
it is more efficient. That's true now, and sometimes, you know, you can see that big increase in efficiency from LIPA to drip. That's because you haven't been listening to him. Tell you how this thing works, best way to operate this LIPA stuff.
In the management requirements more
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little bit more, but again, it's like anything else, it's like, you figure a path, once you figure the path, you just repeat the path, as far as how you handle it. But the fact that you can put it on, and the other thing is the timing, I should mention that, is that where you can give it a drink every day if you want, basically. Whereas the center pivot you're passing, and it could be an 8-day circle or whatever it takes. So that's why, the yield increases in theory come, and it may work better with some crops than it does with others.
Would you use SDI potentially, maybe some vegetable crop,
Mm-hmm.
something of that nature, where you're gonna have to give them a little drink of water every day or something?
Yeah, and to keep the yield maintained. And there may be something, and I don't know, I haven't thought about it as far as with vegetables like tomatoes or that, the spray getting on, or any sort of chance of the bullers getting water on the fruit or whatever, discoloring it and this type of thing. But yeah, it's gonna have to be a high value crop in order to get it. But a lot of times it's in the timing, the fact that you can do it daily almost, rather than having to wait for it to come around. And some crops will respond better than others.
Have you ever seen any research done on weed pressure in SDI versus sprinklers?
Leon,
I didn't
weed
hear the
pressure?
question.
Have you seen any research on weed pressure SDI versus sprinklers?
We got some here.
Let's not.
Get that a little bit, maybe?
Okay, well, I'll let Leon answer that, because I'm starting to chew into his time, and I know it's, you don't mess with the godfather of irrigation.
That's the reason I have a change. No, it's not.
You're gonna use it on him?
Yep, there.